transfer manufacturing is a science. So everything is designed to go down at a very accurate temperature. So if you can control that, you can control everything. So we hear it all the time, like, nah, I'll do it for this, or I'll go higher and take a few seconds off. Oh dear.
Squeegee Podcast, Season 2. This podcast is sponsored by Blind Maggot, Magna Colours, Screenprint World, Stahls, and Adobe Creative Suite.
Hi, I'm Andy from Stahls UK. I look after marketing and take the lead on education here, which is something we're very passionate about for garment decorating and in particular heat printing. So we are part of the Stahls group, which is the leading supplier of heat transfers, heat presses and heat transfer vinyl worldwide.
And my name is Molly, also from Stahls UK, obviously. And a big part of my job role here is education, as Andy said, but via sort of video. So everything that you see on like our YouTube channel, our podcasts, our lives, that's sort of my area, my baby that I look after. So yeah, a lot of stuff that everyone sees education-wise tends to be, I mean, what our customers send in and need help with, and also what we think can help grow their business as well.
Yeah, so I think, Andy, I think we just need to know why the shift in the name straight away, because I'll just keep on accidentally calling you Target. And I think I'm even saying Stalls wrong. I'm saying Stalls instead of Stahls.
Already. When I first joined the company, I couldn't figure out how to pronounce it at first. Andy kept correcting me.
Yeah, so anyone that's not familiar with us, we are mostly known as Target Transfers, and Target Transfers has been in existence for about 43 years, something like that, on the same site in Braintree in Essex, manufacturing heat transfers. But in about year 2000, we got acquired by the Stahls Group. At that point, the person who owned Target Transfers was retiring and they were looking to sell up, but they wanted to make sure that everyone who worked here could still have a job. And there's actually many people that were there then are still here. I just wanted to make sure that their legacy was continued and dedicated to helping heat transfer printers in the UK carry on. So we've actually been part of Stahls for a very long time, but it's only really the last couple of years we've started to really align on what we do and the product offerings in particular. So the thing we're always conscious of is we don't want to be, we're Stahls and they're like, well, can I have this then? And we're like, well, no, but we're still Stahls. But because so much of our heat transfer manufacturing processes have been aligned now, it just seemed like the right time. The Stahls brand name has always been so strong anyway for heat printers in particular. So it just made sense that now is a good time to do it. We're aligning many things that will come up over the next 6, 12, 18 months as well that we're not allowed to talk about yet, but everything is very much being aligned, especially with transfers, heat transfer vinyl, and making sure that the Stahls offering is on every single continent the same way. So it's just a good time to do it. So we're just, right, that's it. We draw a line in the sand, switch the brand up. So now all the websites are stahls.co.uk, custom.stahls.co.uk. So anything you need, just search for Stahls. Most people search for Stahls anyway, and they find us. But normally it's always a bit awkward. Like, well, yeah, we are the UK home of Stahls. We're the UK division, but it kind of makes us sound like a reseller, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So are you Stahls then? We're like, well, yes. So actually, if we just call ourselves Stahls, it kind of takes out that question out of the way, gives people confidence when they're buying. So yeah, it's just Stahls now, Stahls UK.
And you get new T-shirts and merch and stuff now. And
yeah, obviously. I mean,
business cards.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got rebranding of everything. I think that we do.
I've got mine on.
Yeah, oh no, you're unbranded on a garment decorating podcast.
No, sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I noticed it the other day because I was trying to tag you in something, and I was like, Target. Am I being stupid? Why is Target not coming out? I had to look in my messages and then like go back from there, and I was like, oh, okay, but the transition seemed super easy from our perspective. Were there any like hiccups in trying to transfer everything over, or was it pretty simple?
Honestly, it was pretty straightforward, but that's mostly because we spent a lot of time planning this. So it's been something we've been working on for a couple of months, so that when it came to the day of, we knew exactly what we needed to do. The most difficult thing was probably actually getting the name legally changed. So we have legally changed our name, but it's quite as simple as, well, just picking whatever you want. So something for anyone out there that's thinking of becoming a limited company or changing their limited name, it's not quite straightforward of I just want this one, because if it's too close to something else,
Yeah.
then you have to be a bit careful. So ours is technically Stahls UK Europe Limited, rather than just Stahls Limited. It wasn't. That was probably the trickiest thing. I mean, in all honesty, we have a great IT department and a great accounting department that does a lot of the harder stuff. But for us, it's just so me and Molly, it's a case of we need to change the branding, we need to change logo. We can plan. Yes, the cake. Yeah, Molly did bring a cake.
Yeah, we had a very good cake.
But if you plan correctly, it's quite straightforward. But if you just if you only give yourself a week, it would have been a disaster for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think what you guys have done in the last few years with the podcast and just this huge emphasis on showing up regularly on social media has just been. It just looks very cohesive, and I think it elevates your brand over other competitors. Like today, I even just opened up Sign Link magazine, which I don't even know why I'm subscribed to that, but it's like when I did signs years ago, and you're in there. Look, you're in there.
Yeah, that's
with your podcast.
Yeah,
I'm branded in that one.
Yeah, you are branded in that one. So really, Target Transfers does transcend out of just the garment decoration. It goes into signage, and it dips into quite a few different areas, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think the thing is with a lot of these sort of adjacent industries is heat printing's quite a simple skill to pick up. If you follow instructions, if you can follow instructions, you can do it. So if you're already doing things like wide format printing, or you have a large cutter, it's just a case of get a heat press next to the cutting machine and away you go. It's really not too complicated. But sometimes the hardest skill probably, I mean, you at Squeegee, I think you probably know as well as anyone, is actually the artworking is probably one of the hardest things for people to learn, I would say, above all else, whether it's artworking for the screens or for DTG machines or embroidery. That's way harder than learning how to program a heat press to go for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you can figure that stuff out, you can add extra revenue streams into your business with a heat press.
Yeah, I do think, seeing from the kind of jobs that I'm seeing go through, and even walking into shops and looking at the actual prints, that the artworking is the thing that's letting people down, because I feel like there's a lot of these websites where you could just upload an image and then the company just takes it on, and there doesn't seem to be this okay, I'm going to completely redraw your image to make it really nicely printable. There seems to just be there's just slapping it on a few times, which is kind of letting down these amazing techniques that could have a little bit more effort done with the artworking side. I have to push people over to get stuff made into vectors constantly. How do you kind of sift through, when people are uploading transfers to the Target Transfers, Stahls UK website, how does that kind of software detect, guys, this isn't good enough resolution, or I don't think this is going to print well? Are you kind of sifting some of those out your end?
Yeah. So some of the background software can check DPI quite easily. So if someone was to go and order heat transfers and they upload an image and it's less than 300 DPI, it immediately flags to the customer to be this is going to be a problem. We'll print it for you if you order it, but if it's not what you expect, it's on you, because we don't want people to make mistakes. So there's a flag for that. There's a flag for if someone puts their artwork over the edge of the artboard, we flag that, because obviously you don't want it to be cut off. So we try and flag as much stuff before it even gets to the studio. Yeah. And then once it gets to the studio, we have a very vigilant team there that are checking everything to make sure it's artwork ready, or, checking for white boxes being left behind, designs, all that sort of good stuff that we kind of take for granted as printers. But, for not everyone, it's not the most straightforward thing to try or something that just looks wrong, we'll normally flag it, because we turn around our transfer so quickly. It means that we could ask a question at 9 a.m, get an answer by 10, and it hasn't affected the turnaround time.
Yeah.
Because we don't want people to make mistakes, because otherwise they'll lose money or they won't come back.
Yeah. That turnaround time, I tested that recently. I think I had just some ridiculous order come in, and I was literally messaging Molly saying, can you look after this one for me? And she's like, it's already in the system. It's already being printed. And I'm like, okay. I thought I'd have to bribe her with something, but it just went through.
I had trouble finding it because Chessie asked me about it, and then I went to look for it on like the recently ordered, and because it was already in production at that point, and I was like, where is this order? Oh, it's already done.
Yeah. Oh, thank God. But I've actually most of the orders that I get asked about and I can't do myself, they become DTF or ultra orders. But today I actually got one that someone was doing with cut vinyl, and then they just basically got sick of it because they were doing hundreds, and so then that's become a screen print job. But I'm finding that's becoming less and less. So they hit 2,000, and that was their cutoff of there's no way I can keep cutting this vinyl. But you must be seeing
2,000.
That's a lot. I would have given up way before that point.
We normally advise people like it's 10. Anything above 10 or 20, unless it's like a really simple design, like a one cavity design, like anything after that point, you're going to start losing money on the job, because you're going to, if you spend 5 minutes picking out bits of vinyl every single one, that could be, that's pounds that you're losing on that job from manpower. That's just not best use of your time. So here's so many people. As soon as we say there's no weeding involved, they're like, yes, thank you. Thank God.
So okay, so for weeding vinyl, no less than 10 because of your own sanity and cost. And then from ultra colors to screen print, what would you say like the cutoff financially is to just move on to a screen printer?
It's really colors for us. So we say that because we have the ultra color, which is a full color, we call it a digital hybrid, but essentially it's digital screen tech. And then we have a very traditional screen printed heat transfer. So we tend to say if it's one to three colors, go screen printed heat transfer. Anything above 3 colors, it's much better value to get ultra color, because that's unlimited colors and gradients as well. But even if it's just like block color stuff, above 3 colors, I'd switch to ultra color anyway, because the price points are much more attractive that way.
Yeah. And then basically just sampling is the ultra color max giant sheet.
That's right. Because minimum order of 1 on that one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then I never really hear you guys talk about screen printing, but you do it all the time in the back end there somewhere. I'd love to see the screen print department, but
I guess in the simplest terms, it's like yours would do screen printing, but we have it goes onto paper. That's the simple answer. I mean, there's a lot of very clever stuff that goes in with that, but basically put it onto paper so that you can print on demand with it. And that's what we've been doing for the whole time that Target's been here, 40 something years. It's a very tried and true product, but 1 to 2 color stuff, and that's good for like the metallics tend to look better on a screen printed heat transfer. Likewise with we have a special house mix of fluorescent colors as well, which can look really good there too. Because you can Pantone match if it's just a traditional screen transfer as opposed to digital, which you can get pretty much 99%, but not 100% yet.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Like, how are you getting your metallics and stuff? That's really, really interesting, actually. And then I think just recently it's kind of gone off in a light bulb that the absolute best way to use the ultra colors is for levers hoodies, and you obviously get that constantly. Is that right, or do you still put them to screen prints?
Most of them are still screen, because most of them tend to be one color. Like they're white, red, or black, like 99 times out of 100. But I would say that we are encouraging people to think a little bit more outside the box when it comes to lever stuff, because it's always been one color, why should it be one color?
Yeah,
it's like you can see from trends and the fashion out there that people don't just want one color stuff. I mean, look at the amazing stuff that you do with Blind Maggot is that it's multicolor, it's many colors. And you want people, so it's encouraging the people that are making the stuff to schools. Why don't you ask them if they want something? What do you think the actual kid's wearing this one? And they probably want something multicolor. They might want any color. You could just take the same artwork and just put any color into it. You can put a fade into it or put some tonal work in, and that way it's a bit more unique that way.
You're done. I was just going to say, I think the biggest thing is that, as much like Andy said, majority of the stuff that goes through is one colour, but I think it's more so to do with the fact that the people who are buying the levers transfers, aka the schools, don't necessarily think that there's another option out there. So like Andy said, we try and encourage the heat printers to take full colour options to them and say, this is an option, think about it. Even if it's not this year, it might be next year or the year after. But like you say, with DTF, you can offer, like, make 1 or 2 up and take them with you as examples, and physically show them what's on offer, because it's very unlikely that a school is going to come to you and go, this year I want zebra multicolour print on this design. But if you show them what's physically possible, because that sounds really tacky when you say it out loud, but some of the things that our studio team came up with were incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Like, even if the school was randomly called, I don't know, something to do with the horses was their mascot, and then they wanted some kind of, crazy design to go along with that, or if they wanted the horse in full colour or something. I think those limitations are completely disappearing, aren't they? Something that I've noticed marketing wise that I think is a little gem that I think lots of people who are maybe your customers could do is I basically recently started up a Instagram group just for small independents in my town. And then it's gone quite well. So there's lots of small independent businesses that have joined. Like, we've got about 800 followers just in a few weeks. But I think doing your podcast, but aiming it at people in your local area as the heat printer or the screen printer, it's just a little goldmine, because they're the people who are putting in the orders, these small independent business owners. So if they kind of like took the lead from you guys and like what we're doing and did a podcast around small businesses in their area and just interviewed all the little businesses, I think that would be mega leads and stuff coming through that way. So yeah, I don't know. Have you seen anything where you feel like your customers could do outreach to get more customers? Not you to them, but what they could do to their customers to grow their sales?
I think for me, one of my biggest things that I would love to see people do, and it's kind of a UK specific thing, because we see it in the US a lot with American customers already doing this, but it's actually being a bit bolder about storytelling about your business. Many people that I get to, when we get to speak to people at shows, or they come in here and they tell a story about their business or why they get started or what their customer and their niche is, and you're like, well, that's fascinating. I'd love to hear more about that. But I think because people will kind of, maybe family and friends get sick of listening to them, that they no longer think it's interesting because no one wants to hear it anymore. But really, like everyone else, their customers will want to hear it. But it's not just a case of writing it down, putting it on a About Me page on the website. They need to be putting themselves out there, getting out of their own way and talking about this the whole time. Because people want to engage with that stuff, like the local businesses you've got with the Instagram thing, they want to be part of a community. And I think people want to be part of very specific communities now. It's not just a case of I'm interested in a broad subject. I want to know, really narrow down and find the people that just like me. But I think, anything you can do to create a connection with people. We talk about it all the time in terms of how we want to market, is that, how often are we making eye contact with the camera and actually talking to people? Because it's important to build that connection, because I think it helps people to understand you, and they can, people are looking to find what's wrong with this. This sounds too good to be true. So if you can kind of be a bit more honest and a bit more upfront, and they start to get a sense of you and the team at your business, then they start to trust you. But actually, I think, I've seen them do that a million times now. So they're probably not lying about it, or give them a chance, because people are suspicious. That's their nature. But I think anything you can do to put yourself out there. I mean, neither of us were, a couple of years ago when we started to really push this stuff, neither of us wanted to be in front of the camera. But you realise that no one else is going to do it for heat printing in the UK. So we just got to suck it up and get on with it, basically, and make those mistakes and learn from them and do better versions of this.
But weirdly, though, I can't imagine not doing it now. Like, it's become such a big part of what we do here at Stahls that I can't imagine what my job role would look like without it, which is really bizarre. And touching on obviously what you said about what businesses can do more from like a localization point of view, I think one of the biggest things that we've spoken about on many podcast episodes before, but as well as telling your brand story and making those connections, I think something that more businesses could do is just simply like go around your local area and knock on businesses' doors and take like I said with the levers, take examples of the work that you could possibly print, introduce yourself, have a conversation, show them what you can do. Because even if, you know, they might turn around and say, oh yeah, I've been needing more word t-shirts, how much do you charge? Or they might, you know, keep you in the back of their mind for 2, 3, 12 months down the line when they do need something. But something that we've spoken about many a times before is how many businesses are on your doorstep that you don't realize are there, or that might need custom apparel that you might not have thought they did. So just making those connections, like getting to know them personally and just opening the door, I guess, really is around what's in your local area, because there's probably more than you think.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's not, I don't think I know any of our customers that who are successful that don't have at least a strong core element of local business to lean on as part of their, you know, their main revenue stream.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've actually said this recently to the group that we started. I said, guys, there's a huge opportunity here for someone who wants to start with transfers, taking all these customers, like the ones that I can't take anymore. So there's absolutely tons of them, and I'm just pushing them on to other people, and it feels like bad sometimes. And there's a huge amount of money flying around that could be captured, because people then just go, oh sod it, it's too difficult, I don't want to trust an online business quite yet. They want someone who's local. The one customer who you've had on, I've had on, we know, is Darren from Squeezed Orange, and he's done it really well, because anyone who says anything to do with cars or that kind of industry, I'm like, oh, you need Darren from Squeezed Orange. And they're like, Squeezed Orange? I'm like, yes, it's a weird name, but he's done really well with your transfers as well. So how does he use the service for what he does?
I mean, I guess it's more for Darren to say without wanting to reveal his secrets. But I think his advantage, Darren is also based in Essex, so it means that if he needs something quickly or he needs an emergency thing from us, he knows he can come and pick it up if he needs to. But I think it's all about, really, it's understanding what you're good at, which jobs to take on. Like say, it's like there's some stuff you're like, well, actually, the power of saying no is really important, because it's either I haven't got time for this job at the moment, or it's not part of my core business that I'm trying to build here. So I'm sure for him, it's a case of sometimes it's transfers, sometimes it's screen printing, depending on the volume, the particulars of the design. Turnaround time is probably the main indicator. I know he's quite good at saying no to people and managing expectations when it comes to how long this job's going to take. And if you want it tomorrow, it's not going to happen, because you can't always do that at a quality level. So the main thing really is for anyone that's thinking of transfers or building transfers into screen printing is just it always comes down to your performance indicators. How long does a job take? One of the things we always talk to our customers about, do you know how long it takes to heat press a t-shirt? Or do you know how long it takes every time a t-shirt goes on the carousel? Because if you don't know that, then you're going to be screwed at some point. You've got to be like, okay, if I time these two jobs together, which one's going to be quicker? Because the quality's, if you're good at what you do, the quality's going to be there as you buy. So it's a case of, okay, if a job comes in, you should be able to identify quickly, that's a transfer job or that's a screen printing job. Probably based on colours, I would imagine, for the most part. But that's important to make sure you have an understanding of how long it takes, so you can always pick the right option, because, you know, turnaround time for us is always good. So we can get even the larger orders that get back in a couple of days, or, you know, if you're like Darren, come and pick it up. And sometimes I've seen him here 2 or 3 times a day, because he's just going and going and going. But he's got, you know, you've got to get those jobs out.
Yeah, he's a really good example, because he uses embroidery, screen print, and some transfers in you can see it across like quite a lot of his feed. So he's a good person for people to follow. You just said something that reminded me of a piece of kit, and I don't think it's from Stahls, but it's that revolving carousel heat press. What do you think about that? And do you think you're going to have a version of that in the collection in the next few years, or not? Or
there's no plans for that.
Really, you weren't won over by it turning around and don't see the advantage.
I think that to be honest with you, because we have the dual air fusion, which is so it's got 2 workstations, is that there's only so fast a human being could work anyway.
Okay.
But it also comes down to we pride ourselves on the kind of the build quality in terms of maintaining temperature. Every single press is that if that was the most efficient way to do it, and it could be, you can maintain the quality level, we would have it already.
Okay.
I mean, I know that there's some very exciting things coming out soon around the Hoptronics new developments we've got. Nothing we can talk about yet. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, if not early next year, there's some really cool things that we've got planned to take things to the next level of efficiency. But no, there's no plans for Carousel one. And to be honest, I think probably as well, the footprint of it is probably not ideal for most of our customers. Most of our customers, even the bigger ones, be like, I'd rather have 20 dual air fusions lined up in a row or back to back.
Well, who doesn't want 20 dual air fusions? That's nuts.
I know,
crazy.
We've got a few like that, and they literally take 20 at a time because they've got so much work going through. And it's just it's so efficient. Every single part of it is built for precision, like the tiniest little details about it. And so many of those things like are Stahls developments, even the digital controllers on heat presses is Stahls. What we call threadability, which is the biggest one, again, is something that Stahls had patented and revolutionized. So, and if it was a good idea, you'd see these Stahls carousel heat press already.
Yeah. Okay. And talking about like little things that you can do to like make a really quite a big improvement for your money, I think is that slip mat thing on the bottom of the press, the quick slip. Yeah. Because if you take, if people don't know what that is it's like basically a Teflon cover for the bottom so that you're not dragging the t-shirt over. I think that's brilliant because I had to heat press like 200 hoodies recently, and that just instead of taking them off, you just go like half do it and then turn it around, put it back on again. Yeah. Do you advise putting those quick slips on the over the top heater as well on say like a normal press that doesn't have like two heated plans?
We do them.
We do them. I wouldn't say it's as an essential as the bottom one is definitely the number one pick. That's definitely essential. The top ones are more really for like DTG people when it's more for the curing more than anything else.
Layer, isn't it?
Yeah, just because you don't want to get any ink and gunk going up into the top area and having to clean it all the time as well, where you've got a top cover, you can just take it off and wipe it down and then it's good for the next day. We tend to advise most transfers you just need a release paper, which is like just a uncoated paper that we sell that you just place on top of the transfer. That's mostly to stop any early release on cold peel transfers. But no, it's not essential. If you're doing if you're following the instructions right, you don't need it all the time.
That's interesting what you just said. So early release on cold peel. So that's when the press is coming up with quite a little bit of force, and maybe it's pushing down and pulling the transfer off prematurely. Yeah. Oh, that's clever. What do you see people do to mess up their transfers quite a lot when they're not following the instructions? Like, are you seeing people not do pre-press more, or are they like doing something in their head that makes sense, like pressing it and then pressing it again just to make sure? Like, are they doing anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above.
There are so many things that we see on a weekly basis that you just sort of bang your head against a wall because of, not because people are doing things wrong, even though technically they are, but it's more just the time they're wasting. Like, it's frustrating for us to see because, you know, we've done calculations before where we can save people like 55 working days a year if they just follow 2 or 3 simple efficiency hacks. And to just like know that amount of time that businesses can save, it's just frustrating when they're not doing it, I guess, is my personal opinion on it. But yeah, there's so many things. The threadability that Andy mentioned is a big one. People that don't split the garment, they put both layers on the press.
I've seen that. I've seen it when they put the hood in even. So they're basically squashing a hood in print.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's so ugly.
Squishing the whole thing. You get like press marks through with the back of the seam onto the front, or the front to the back, I should say. The second press is a big one that you've just mentioned. We've spoken about this a lot recently, and it is just a big time waster. You don't need to be second pressing transfers. If they're a decent enough quality transfer like ultra colour or screen print, they don't need to be pressed again. I think quite a lot of that comes from either people's fear that the transfer is not going to stick, which is just ridiculous, or maybe it's a habit that's been passed down from a previous owner or somebody that they know is doing it similarly, and they think, oh, that's just always the way it's been done, and they don't question it. And then when they hear someone say you don't need to be doing that, they're like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think that's a big one. Pre-pressing again is another big one, and I think that's a really important one because we talk about pre-pressing to obviously smooth out any wrinkles in the garment, remove moisture, check pressure, etc. But if you don't pre-press a transfer, it will still stick to the garment perfectly fine, but it might be that it comes off a little bit further down the line, especially with the pressure element and the, the moisture and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily something that your customers will tell you. If it comes off in 10, 20, 30 washes, they're probably not going to come back to you and say, oh, I'm having a problem with this t-shirt. They just probably won't ever order again. So that's something we really try and get into people's minds, that, it's the quality and the longevity of the product you're providing, not just, I will save a quick 5 seconds here. Like, we're all about efficiency, don't get me wrong, but yeah, making sure you can produce a product that, is going to guarantee you return customers, really.
Yeah. Are you seeing any of these new fabrics that are raising problems? Because we've had it in screen print where they might add a silicone treatment to the garment and then you just cannot cure it, or anything like that you're hitting up against recently with new fabrics?
Not loads. I mean, for us, it's quite easy because most of our transfers are low temperature. So the biggest issue that a lot of printers have is around scorch marks, probably. And that's because fabric is wanting to react at certain, if it at certain temperature, it's normally about 130, 140 degrees if it's got polyester, because there's lots of products where they want to have that tri-blend, or it's a 2-blend of fabric, and you're like, well, it feels like cotton, but really it's like 50% polyester or rayon or something in there that actually is heat sensitive, and then that makes the whole garment heat sensitive as a result. So we see a few people struggle with that because they're not testing things properly, or they're not paying attention to how the fabric's changing. I mean, there's easy ways around it. It's just a case of pay attention and check after the first one. That's something that I would say in terms of people making mistakes is, you make a mistake on the first one and then just keep doing it for the whole job, and then 100 t-shirts later you're like, well, I've got 100 t-shirts I can't use, and well, why did you do that for? It'd be like you screen printing the wrong color on something. It'd be like, well, I thought it might change color after the first few. It just doesn't happen.
You guys must hear so much stuff. When people screen print something, there is this kind of like misconception that they can test if it's cured by like stretching it. But that's actually just showing that it's flexible, because you've basically turned it into a but the only way to test a cure in screen print is to put it through a wash. Like, are you advising people, if it's a completely random product that they've never done before, how do you get them to tell whether it has set? Because it's not cured, is it? It's just set. But maybe the screen print element is set, cured. Are you saying wash or flex? Or
I would say leave it a day. I mean, we always recommend, if you're putting transfers onto something, you should leave 24 or 48 hours before washing it anyway. Yeah. Because transfers or vinyl, I think most decorating processes really, even though they're still kind of always, they're getting to know the fabric and they're settling in. After that point, it's never going to come off. But at that point, it's still kind of working its way in. So I'd say leave it one day, because again, if it's mostly heavily dyed garments that are an issue. So any dye migration, you're probably going to find out the next day. Yeah. So leave it a day, come back and see what's happened there. And then chances are it's going to come off in the first wash or two if it's going to be a problem fabric. So at that point, very early on, especially if it's, like say, if it's something that's new, you should always do this test to start off with, because the transfers are good. We have an industrial wash testing machine in-house. So our transfers we have a system where every week we pick random transfers, fuse them onto a t-shirt or hard to use fabrics, and then wash test them to make sure that they're always at this very high standard. So we know that our transfers will last, but we can't test on every single fabric. And sometimes I think that there is a little bit of an element of blank garments being produced without enough testing before they get to the market, and then trying to workarounds after that point, which isn't ideal. Thankfully, we have many workarounds, but it'd be much more straightforward if you could just print on the first time, and customer doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I would say, but I would say wash off the first one. That way you'll know exactly what you're working with.
I'd also recommend as well on the testing front with the wash quality. Something we did recently was we did quite a lot of testing on things like leggings and like polyester garments and things for the athleisure videos that we've been creating. And something that Andy and I did was we just did 3 or 4 different variations of application with the same transfer in different products. So we used like normal heat press, normal release paper for one, tested, if it was going to mark, if it was going to come off, if it was going to stick. Then we did one with like Grip Flex, which for those of you that don't know is like a thicker rubber sheet that you use in place of release paper. It just gives a bit more protection. Then we used underneath heat, with our power platens, and just a few different variations, and then we put them all in the wash together and looked at them afterwards, rather than doing one wash, testing it and going, oh, that didn't work, what should we try next? We just did like 3 or 4 different versions and whacked them all in at the same time, and then we were like, oh, that one worked really well, we'll go with that.
So what was the outcome of that? Is it the bottom power platen one, or what won that test?
It depends on the garments, because we did quite a bit of a few variations of the products, didn't we? But I would say for stuff like leggings and much more sensitive, stretchy, shiny fabrics, the power platen with the Grip Flex was the most successful, because it just completely removes any press boxes at all. And obviously Ultra Colour being the low fusing transfer at 120, that just completely took off a good 20 to 40 degrees worth of heat that didn't need to be there. But some of the stuff like the jumpers and that we managed to do on our normal presses, like the Fusion or the Auto with the Grip Flex. And there's a few different variations, but I mean it's all achievable. It's just knowing which method to use and when. But that's why we always recommend testing so much.
I've noticed in the last year an absolute complete transformation of the printwear and promotion and the magazines. They are basically DTF magazines now, and that is a DTF show. I'm like, oh God, it's just coming in like a wave and eating up all the screen printing content like around us. And I get it. I understand, but I still feel like I don't know whether I'm just like on an island and everyone else has left me with the screen printing thing, but hopefully there's still value in it that DTF. Your thing is, now you're getting me all confused, Andy. You're saying like more stuff's coming in January. I'm like, what more are you bringing in?
There's always something.
Well, trying to kill us off.
That's what. No. This is always complimentary. I was saying to, we were discussing this before we came on. Is that for me, there's always a time and a place, but mostly it comes down to quality, and that's why there will always be a place for screen printing, but it's always a place for a good screen printer is the main key element of that. It's the actual person operating the machine that is the difference maker. Anyone could buy a DTF, anyone could spend 30 grand on a machine, but there's probably of the people that buy, probably only about 2 or 3% of them can actually make a high level product that's not just a promo product.
Really?
That's what I would say is that. So I think there's a place for quality garment decorators that can do a good job or can do a great job, and that's kind of where we always sit, is that with our either heat presses or our heat transfers, we know that we're always going to have the best, because we're part of a large group, but we also invest so much money into R&D and technology to make sure that we are the best. But there's always going to be a cheap machine that comes out and people think it's amazing, but we've seen customers that have gone away even within like an 8-month turnaround. They spent tens of thousands on the machine, and they spend another 10 grand on having a room to put the machine in, because it doesn't just go in a garage. And then we start looking at our orders coming through and be like, I recognize that customer. We haven't heard from them for a while, and they're putting direct to film jobs through our website because they're really, it's hard work. It's not just a case. It's not like a print and cut machine where you can more or less plug and play. It's if you buy a DTF machine, you're employing yourself to be a printer from that point onwards, because you've got to watch it, you've got to learn how powder works, learn how ink works,
it's
all sorts of process. It's a new skill set that you have to learn, and none of them are plug and play. But
People like to try.
So I think that for screen printers, I know that a lot of your listeners and watchers are screen printers, that the quality of the end product speaks for itself. If you put that into someone's hands and they felt really high quality screen print, and they'd be like, this is amazing. I'll have however many of them, and they'll keep coming back because quality product. But it's when you start perhaps trying to compete with DTF by, maybe not paying as much attention or trying to rush that job through, and you're getting a thicker finish with the inks and it's not quite as good. That's when the problems come. But it's actually those that stick to their guns and be like, that's fine, you can go and get that done, but we'll be here when you want to come back because you want a better product.
Yeah, I hang around. I'm such a geek and a spy, but I hang around loads of Facebook groups, and a few of them that I'm in now is like the DTF ones, and I never interact with them, but I'm just sat there looking at, like, they've got all the problems of DTG printers with all the streaks. So if they've got the blockheads, but then they've also got the white underbase not lining up with the print, and then they've also got the powder doesn't link up with them. So you have to get all three right, make it profitable, put out enough to cover the finance on that machine, and still make a profit. So I'm just like, just send it to Stahls, and they'll just cut that out. You must have to produce a lot in-house to make that financially viable per job. I'd like to know what the cutoff point was for that.
And a lot of the numbers that I see people offering it for, I worry for them, because I know that they're not going to be profitable in the medium or long term with that prices. They're just kind of fighting each other on price, and in this industry, fighting on price is not the way to go. It's quality is always the most important thing, and having been able to produce quality consistently is everything.
But I did hear a screen printer. I asked him, if your whole factory just burnt down, then you had the insurance money to buy any equipment you want. And he said he'd buy transfers and loads of heat presses. So I was a bit gutted to hear it, but he said that's the kind of jobs that he's getting in, because in the sector that he's in, which is mainly like schools and stuff, that would match him. So I think it's a case by case, but I know what you mean about the quality. DTF by the meter from your mate who used to do screen printing is probably not the best way to go, is it? No. So I think you probably answered it a bit, but what is your unpopular opinion about the garment decoration industry that you keep hearing and would rather stop hearing about it?
Oh, that's a good. I think for us, it always comes back to following instructions. Is the kind of the thing is that and I guess that's not really unpopular opinion, because I guess a lot of business operators feel the same, but it's people that think that they know better than the people who manufacture transfer. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but transfer manufacturing is a science. So everything is designed to go down at a very accurate temperature. So if you can control that, you can control everything. So we hear it all the time, like, nah, I'll do it for this, or I'll go higher and take a few seconds off. And you think, oh dear.
There's a reason that we have a TTP.
Or there's just weird instructions. You see a lot. That's a lot with the DTF things. You see some instructions. You think, well, no, that's all wonderful that you can do that, but second pressing the products, not sure about that. Even on some of the more expensive machines out there, they're like. Now, I was at FESPA recently, and obviously we're doing our homework and looking around, and you look at something like 165 degrees fuse. That's not great. And for 20 seconds, that'll burn most garments at that point. So I guess it's not really an unpopular opinion, because it's it's logic, but a lot of people make very obvious mistakes that could be avoided just by, like Molly said earlier, it's like, well, that's the way I've always done it. It's like, that's the most annoying thing that anyone can say in any kind of business scenario, really, because it makes no sense. But it's just, people not following the recipe is always the most annoying thing that we hear, because you just think, well, and then they won't admit they made a mistake. Okay, we just wasted 2 hours of each other's time now. We could have all been working in that time, couldn't we?
Yeah, exactly. One of the videos that I've seen from, I don't know who actually produced it. Maybe it was the actual factory, the workaround or something. But they took a cheap Chinese eBay press and they ripped it apart, and then they got your one. Us. Oh yeah, so good. Genuinely, just put that one out over and over on repeat. And then they took your press and they just ripped the heating elements off so you could see. And I had one of those cheap presses because I had to get it overnight for a job, like when I very first started. I think everyone has. And you can just see there's a filament like that, and maybe like 3 little, it's basically like a grill, a really crap grill. And there's loads of dead spots of heat. And then you do your one and it's like, is it just lots more filament?
Yeah, lots of rods. Yeah.
So is it the way you're spreading the heat as well?
Yeah, so that was one of our videos that Josh in the US did. So you can actually see it on our YouTube channel anyway if you want to see it. But you just search for Hottronics versus import. But it basically has so many rods in it, and because they're so close together, there's no chance of the heat getting colder in between them. So it means that every single wear on the press, it's to the degree accurate.
Yeah, that press cost me so much money because I was doing bloody lever studies, and then the bottom right hand corner, I can graphically remember it, the bottom right hand corner was just washing off, and I was like, you can't just have one corner wash off. And I was trying to tell my customer, and then I saw that video and I was like, oh shit, that was me. And then you're doing the heat gun on the press and you can see like it goes like 5 degrees, 120 degrees, 5 degrees. It's that's a really good video for you guys to just sell on. But I don't tend to like content that brings other things down to bring you up, but I don't think that's that. I think it's just I think it's a really quite a fair assessment of putting the money into your kit because it's always paying off. But so can I ask another question quickly? Like, how many heat presses, like say the auto opens, do you think one person can manage in a studio before
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
I managed to work 4 at once before, but that was very well timed for a specific video. That wasn't for practical purposes at all.
I would say it's probably, well, there's 2 answers, I guess. If it's just 2 auto opens side by side, probably 2 at the most to really keep an eye on what you're doing and efficient. And probably at that point, you're better off just buying 1 dual air fusion.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit more money, but the efficiency built into it, by the time you bought stands for them and extra things, it's probably way more efficient to have 2. But one thing that and this is something we're discussing in an event we did last week a lot, is that actually you could easily have an auto open and an auto open 360 hat press side by side. So 360 hat press, because the fuse time is say 30 to 45 seconds for a hat, it's much easier to have a dual workspace with something like that rather than necessarily like say 2 t-shirt or hoodie machines separately. I'd still go for the dual at that point because you're starting to get to that price anyway.
Yeah. Also, another massive thing about that dual one is that you're just pressing 2 buttons. But if you're heat pressing for 8 hours, you can get like knots in your back from doing that.
Yeah.
It's actually quite painful. It's like,
my favorite thing about the duals has to be the pressure. I'm not going to lie, because dual workstations is great. The fact that it moves on its own is great, but you know, it's Hottronics. We've all seen that before. That's not new. But the pressure thing for me gets me every time. Like if I swap out a platen or I put a different garment underneath that's thicker or something along those lines, not having to think or manually change the pressure, it just does it perfectly for you. That is a game changer. Like the amount of times when we film videos, we're fusing on 3, 4, 5 different garment types at a time, so you're constantly swapping out platens and stuff, and you have to check the pressure, change it, adjust it a bit to get it perfect every time. But on the dual, absolutely nothing.
How does it do that? How does it detect the pressure? Is it literally sensors and sensing how far away it is from the bottom platen or something? Or
That's it. It's got so much technology built into it that it comes down as it's coming down, it can feel the surface area to know how much force it needs. That's the biggest thing, is changing between platen sizes, is they're not just obviously breaking it, but by having it air powered, it's got a lot more control and a lot better feel for it, and just a lot of time spent into research and development to get it right.
Okay. And then that's the one that you need an air compressor for? Is that a must have, an air compressor for that?
I mean, lots of places have or shop air. I guess if you have compressed air in the building, you can just plug it into the existing that you have. But if you don't have that, then you need a compressor, which is about £800 to £900, depending on where you're buying it from, for someone like a jeweler.
Okay.
So it's not a massive addition, but then that, you can get a good quality compressor that will last and last and last for that.
Yeah. Cool. I think I've asked you a lot of stuff. Where are you seeing like your social media strategy going now? Are you paying more attention to like the podcast and the lives, or do you see like value in other areas of things that you're doing, or is it a whole ecosystem that you're building?
I don't think it's changed really. I mean, I know our brand name has changed, but if anything, it's just kind of aligned what we were already doing content and education wise with what Stahls do in the US anyway. So obviously we do focus a lot on education. That's our biggest thing. So, the podcast, the lives, sort of tips and tricks on our socials is one of our biggest things. But, we're always open to, if people have things that they want from us or ideas, we're always open to hear them. And yeah, Beth, who does all of our social content, does a really great job of making all the, fun reels that, are great for everybody else. So we haven't really changed our strategy as much as we have just kind of aligned all of our missions together.
I'd say it all comes.
Sorry.
It all comes. Sorry, Jeff. I say it all comes down to how do our customers want to be educated? Some want short form, some want long form, some want this platform, some want that platform. So we try and have a good enough skill set between the marketing department here to make sure that if customers are on there and they want to be educated on TikTok, then it's up to what the customer wants, not necessarily what platforms we prefer personally. Yeah. We need to make sure that we're coming to them, because we've got to be making the first steps when it comes to providing education and information about heat printing.
Yeah, we cover all bases, don't we? Mm-hmm.
I think you definitely do. I was just saying that I think the US just want to be able to like say that your content's a bit like they can just use that now. So they're like, oh, they're the same name. They're just like, oh, you guys change your name so that we can use your content. I just thought of a really fun challenge for us to, if you ever wanted to do it in the future.
Okay.
It would be like screen printer versus heat printer. Yeah. And you just both get the same image and you just got to like print the 100 shirts or whatever it is. And it's just like who can do it quickest and best. And yeah, that'd be really funny.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Yeah.
If you really run out of stuff to do, then
that sounds
I'll
good.
do the challenge. Yeah. No, thank you so much.
Okay.
I think we've rounded it down. Everyone's aware now, hopefully, that the name has changed, but the people are the same and the products are the same as well. So one more thing, because I literally just remembered it. Do you know how puff printing is becoming really crazy popular again with screen print? Are you selling like puff transfers a lot now, or not?
To be honest, we're not getting loads and loads of. There's a few people that have asked for it, but I wouldn't say that it's been something that we've seen loads of. It's something we're keeping an eye on, but it's not something that a mass amount of customers have come to us with as yet. Okay. So we used to do loads of it back in the day, but it's not been I've seen it on the high street, but I would say that in terms of like, because we work with so many customers that are just doing sort of corporate and workwear, it's not something that's bled into that yet.
Okay. It's probably just started to deal with a lot of streetwear people, and that every other word is puff and high build. So I can do the high build transfers cut out and they look epic. So okay. That was just one little thing that I'd be annoyed at myself if I didn't ask in a second. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'll let you
pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Crack on, but I really appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit.
Right, see ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.